Hi, I'm Danita Jackson, and I'm going to discuss 3 different types of assessments that are commonly used with educators in education. There are several types of assessments that teachers can use to support their planning, adapting curriculum, improving the effectiveness of the teacher or the program that they are using, tracking the child's progress, and screen for special needs. Each assessment has their own set of advantages and disadvantages. So a teacher has to be mindful of what they want to track and which assessment would be the most appropriate for the concept or lesson to be taught. There is 3 assessments that I will be highlighting in this discussion will be anecdotal records, portfolios, and rubrics. Anecdotal records are the first one I will talk about. Anecdotal records are a direct observation of a specific behavior. Using this assessment will be useful to determine if the delivery of the curriculum, or another outlying reason is the antecedent for a specific behavior. Understanding all of the circumstances surrounding the behaviors observed can guide an educator to the most appropriate delivery of a curriculum for a student. Gathering this information will help the teacher plan and/or adapt the curriculum to meet the unique educational needs of the student. The student may need a modified, adapted curriculum. Anecdotal notes can be formal or they can be informal. They can be as simple as a note home to a parent explaining what happened during their day. It can be also a daily report stating what the child did and did not do very well and what they had learned, with a little summary at the bottom. It can be more specific, as with this child. It was keeping the on-task and off-task behaviors, the reminders, and what the observations were and why they think it happened. They're dated and the time was kept for each child. Understanding the needs of the student will improve how the teacher interacts with the student. When the teacher knows the antecedent of the behavior, they can better guide the student in their educational journey. They can do this by modifying or adapting the curriculum in a way that fits the unique need of the student. The educator may even find ways to present the curriculum in a way that is beneficial for the entire class or find a program that is a better fit for their classroom. Being able to be flexible and willing to meet the unique needs of the students is another way anecdotal records can benefit the classroom. Anecdotal records can be shared with parents and other educators. Sharing this information will show a child's progress or digression of the observed behaviors. The records will also provide an insight of the antecedents that may be the cause for some or all of the behaviors to be present. This information will also guide the teacher to determine the best way to provide instruction for the student. When this information is presented to families, they can understand the child's progress in the learning environment, but could also add pertinent information. For example, if a child begins coming in late to school and is noted to be late 3 out of 5 days, then she begins to stomp her foot, claiming she wants to go home. When she becomes frustrated, it would be important to keep anecdotal records of these occurrences. Then, when meeting with parents, the teacher can share this information, and the parents then may share that there are struggles at home, such as separation, job loss, or moving. Using anecdotal records is an effective way to dig deeper to determine if a child may need to be considered or qualify for special needs. Keeping notes on their emotional, physical, cognitive, and exceptional needs or concerns can assist educators in understanding the unique needs of the students. If needed, providing this information to the RTI team or special education team will give them a clearer picture of the needs of the student. The teacher would already have begun the observation process that could lessen the time it would take for students to get the help they would need. Without anecdotal records, these teams would have to get the teacher or other professional to do observations and make the needed notes in order to provide the help the student would need. This could be a long process. That is why it's helpful for teachers to already have these records on the child. The advantages of anecdotal records include specific information of a targeted behavior, discovery of antecedents of the behaviors, and ways to meet the unique needs of a child. There are two potential obstacles of using anecdotal records. The first obstacle is that there are times that the observations cannot be written at the exact time the behaviors are observed. Many times the summaries are not written until later in the day, and some of the observations or actions have been forgotten. The second obstacle is that the records are not done in an unbiased manner. Sometimes the observer may get emotionally involved and record the observations based on their emotions instead of the actual action. In order to solve the accuracy of observations being noted, the observer should keep a small notepad or other device that will help them keep small notes on their observations to later write their summaries when they do have the time. This will keep the observations more accurate. Another way is to keep a simple record sheet with them in order to note their observations with tallies, words, or marks. To solve the problem with being unbiased in the anecdotal records would be to have a third party to come in and do the observations. Having another person not directly involved would assure the information to be emotional free and accurate. So the third party observer could be the solution for both obstacles as well. The next assessment I will talk about is portfolios. Since a portfolio can show what a student knows and the best way to learn, it is easy for a teacher to use the information gathered to help plan or adapt the curriculum. This tool provides information for the educator to reflect on which delivery options work for teaching different concepts to students. If there was a way that many students struggle, that may mean that the teacher needs to find a different way to present the information. Keeping the summative information in portfolios will help the teacher know what concepts were mastered by all, most, or a few students. It also allows others who may work with the child in that school year or in the future to get a snapshot of what the student can do. If the teacher chooses to keep a portfolio on just a unit, then the educator will see what parts of the unit was successful and which ones needed to be changed to meet the needs of the students. For example, if a teacher created a portfolio for students who were doing realistic fiction, and she noticed that many of the students did not understand how to add adjectives to describe the scenes in their works, then she would know to give extra attention to teaching adjectives in the future. For example, keeping a child's records from first grade throughout the years to show their progress on how their writing gets better and how they meet the expectations throughout the years is another reason for keeping the portfolios. Not only that, it keeps their report cards and any other important information that they may have. Each portfolio can help the teacher see the progress that students are making. An educator can look at each student's performance on specific concepts and determine their progress on each one. With the work samples, tests, and documentation being carefully dated, it gives the teacher a better idea of how the student is performing. Also, when the teacher shares this information with families, they can also provide concrete examples of the child's understanding of what they are being taught. Some of the information in portfolios are formative. Therefore, they may take some of that material out to give to the families during the conferences. This is especially true if they have more than one example of the concept for the child, and the child has mastered it. Portfolios are effective ways to show where students are struggling. If there are several examples of a student not meeting the expectations of a particular subject or concept, then this information will help when the teacher presents her concerns to other teachers. It also helps when the teacher goes through the RTI process. Since the RTI process requires examples of students' abilities or struggles, then a portfolio is a helpful tool to get the student the help they need. The advantages of using this type of assessment include having a clear picture of the student's progress, sharing the information with others, knowing what works or does not work, and being able to get help for a student if they need it. Having an accumulation of a student's work will help the teacher not only see where the child is performing, but also how she can improve her lessons to meet every child's need and learning preference. A potential obstacle of using portfolios is that they can be subjective. If the teacher does not set the same expectation for each student, then the information in the portfolio may not be as useful in order to see a clear picture of how the students have understood the concepts being taught. The best way to overcome this obstacle is to have a teacher in the same grade level who is not as familiar with the students to help look through the portfolios. This will give them an unbiased perspective of the student's progress. They can even each give a grade and then average the grade for a more accurate representation. The last tool I will discuss is our rubrics. When planning a lesson, a teacher can create a rubric. The rubric will give students a concrete idea of the expectations for the concept, subject, or unit. The rubric will explicitly show what the teacher will be looking for in the student's work. As the teacher evaluates each rubric, she will be able to see where the strengths and weaknesses are. The strengths can let her know she is on the right track. Then, considering the weaknesses, she can determine whether they are because the delivery of the information or just it just needs to be retaught. Having an outline of the objectives is one way to have a rubric. The different performance levels is another way of showing what the teacher is looking for in a rubric. And of course, the standards-based grading is a rubric in itself. Much like portfolios, a rubric gives the teacher a clear idea of the skills the students have grasped and those they are struggling with. Being able to determine the mastery of each concept, lesson, or unit will help the educator know what is successful and what needs to be changed. Having clear documentation of where the child falls within each criteria that was set will help the teacher find ways to improve the way she introduces the information to the children. It will also help her create rubrics that are meaningful and easy for all who use them to understand. Rubrics are one of the tools that educators will include in a child's portfolio. The use of rubrics to track a child's progress helps the teacher knows where the child is performing. That in turn helps the teacher know where the child is performing. That in turn helps her communicate clearly with the child's family. Rubrics are also easy for the family to understand and see the target learning objectives that their child was being assessed on. Because of how the rubrics are created with the specific explanations, the families have a concrete example of what their child is doing and how they are performing. Another benefit of using rubrics is that it gives a way for students to assess themselves. They can use the rubrics as a guide and complete their work. For example, understanding, strategy, and reasoning of the procedure and communication. Novice means that they do it without effort, that they don't have to, they don't make an effort and they don't understand it, so they would get a level 1. Apprentice, they had a good try, but they were still unclear, which is a level 2. Practitioner, very good, clear, strong understanding is a level 3. Expert, excellent understanding, has it completely, a level 4. So a child could use a rubric similar to that and know exactly where they're falling. When a student consistently does not meet satisfactory expectations on the rubric, it helps the teacher to share the information to get the child help. On the other hand, if a child consistently exceeds the expectations, then the teacher can either get more assistance to challenge the student or provide enhancement assignments. The main advantage of using rubrics as assessments are that they are easy to adapt to any concept or monitor progress. Depending on the focus of the assignment, the rubric can change to look for specific skills. Even though rubrics can be easily changed to adapt to the concept or skill that is being monitored, an obstacle is that some students' performances do not meet any of the criteria that's on the rubric. To overcome this obstacle, an educator can make note of the student's progress and why it did not fall within the confines of the rubric. Many times it is because the student is has an exceptional need or is a gifted child. Again, this is where the ease of the adaptability of the rubric is an advantage. Once these students are identified, a teacher can work with the special education or gifted teachers to create a suitable rubric that still shows the progress of the student in the concept being taught. These are some of the most important tools to a teacher in order to help them plan and adapt their curriculum, to better understand the needs of their children, to track their progress, and to find the help children need, whether it's special needs or exceptional or gifted children. Using these tools can make give the teacher a hands up because they have concrete evidence of what the concerns are and how the children are progressing. It shows mastery, struggles, and it also helps with communication with others. Thank you.